Welcome to Movies Are Life. I'm your host, Nathan Chandler, and I hope everyone is having a great summer filled with movies and hopefully a lot of fun swimming time. I don't know about you, it is starting to get really hot here in Oklahoma after lots and lots of rain. So we're trying to find as many excuses to either go to the swimming pool or definitely the movie theater to get into some serious AC. But yeah, if you notice, it's just me right now. Usually I'm joined by my co-host and wife, Whitney Chandler, or another guest who comes on to talk about a particular movie. But this time it's a little bit different. I'm really excited about this because this interview that you're about to listen to has sprouted from my involvement with deadCenter Film Festival, which just concluded just about a week ago here in Oklahoma. It's the premier film festival in Oklahoma. It just celebrated its 25th year, which is really incredible with that and the way the OKC Thunder are rolling right now. Hopefully Game 7 is coming up. This Sunday is the time of the recording, so I'm hoping for a great result there. But there's a lot of awesome synergy in Oklahoma. Actually, the first night, there was a kickoff night Wednesday night for the deadCenter Film Festival, kind of a social hour. But it was the same time as the game that night. I think it was game 4, I think, because it was in Indiana. So anyway, there were watch parties all over the place and just a lot of energy buzzing in Bricktown, downtown Oklahoma City. It was really, really neat. But yeah, I had the honor to be asked to be on the jury for Best Narrative Film Feature, which was a lot of fun. I was super honored and super excited when I was asked, but the reality hit pretty hard that I was going to have to watch 7 films in about a week and a half span, which is a lot of film intake for me in such a short amount of time. But I really enjoyed the challenge and really enjoyed seeing a lot of different films and perspectives, and just it was awesome to see like independent film at its best. But I also was asked to moderate 2 of the different screenings during the film festival. And so the second screening I did was for today's movie, Close Enough to Burn. I wasn't able to see the film before the actual screening, so I went in blind after the welcome to the crowd that was there. The film started, so I didn't know what it was going to be like. And after it was over, I just really enjoyed my experience there. The director was there, who you'll meet here in a sec, and the producers and some of the other crew, and I helped moderate some Q&A there and stuff. And then afterwards, I came up to the director, Benjamin Tefera. He also wrote the film as well, and just quickly told him about my podcast, but tried to get out of the way so he could go talk to other people. And then a couple of days later, the producer of the film reached out, and we just coordinated this interview to help spread the word about this film, because I really enjoyed it and just want to try to give more voice to independent film and help people to kind of think outside of their box of where they just usually go to watch a film, because this young crew here, I think, really tells a really compelling and fun, dramatic story about the music industry. And there's a lot of romance, a lot of crime that happens, but also it's a coming of age tale as well. But there was just a lot of neat things happening. And the fact that they shot it here in Oklahoma, used a lot of local actors, but also actors from other places. But I was just real thrilled to have them on to talk about their process and their experience. And I just really hope you enjoy it. But before I throw it to the interview, just remember you can find all things at moviesarelife.com. Podcast episode reviews. Hope you caught our 2 new trailers that we released. You Had Me at Rewind and Not Caught Up. So we're gearing up for those 2 podcast series. I'm really excited about that. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this interview. I am thrilled to welcome in the crew of Close Enough to Burn, which, correct me if I'm right, it debuted at the deadCenter Film Festival this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I was had the privilege to moderate this screening, and I hadn't seen it before, and I really enjoyed the film. So I appreciate you all taking the time to come on and talk about the film, because I just love supporting independent film and just encouraging people to seek out such films. But before we just jump into everything, I just thought that we could kind of go around the horn, and just each of you could introduce yourself and your role that you played in the movie.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'll start it off. My name is Benjamin Tefera. I'm the writer and director of Close Enough to Burn.
Yeah, I'm Slyrex. I worked on music and editing primarily for Close Enough to Burn.
I'm Ben Stillwell White, and I'm one of the producers on Close Enough to Burn. Been with it since day one, like all these guys.
And I'm Gared Reinke. Same story as Ben. I'm also a producer on this film. Been with these guys for a long time.
So. Oh, awesome. How was your experience at the deadCenter Film Festival this year?
It was good. It was good. Yeah, definitely. Like deadCenter, they're growing, trying to push the program every year. And Oscar qualifying festival, like that's been a relatively recent development. So we had a great time. Had a fantastic screening on Friday. Had another good screening on Sunday. So yeah, no complaints whatsoever. It was a great time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if anybody participated in the festival, there's actually like a virtual pass that's open for a couple more days. So make sure to check that out, because your film is one of the films that's listed on that. So I want to encourage people to check that out. So Close Enough to Burn. I'm just going to read the summary, but then you check me to make sure you don't want to add anything else. But a simple contract dispute spirals into a whirlwind of music, romance, and violence for a young investigator as he fights his growing obsession with a group of artists on the brink of splintering. So that's a pretty good summary. Is there anything else you would like to add to that?
Yeah, no, more than adding in, maybe just if that's heady for anybody, and it's just about an outsider coming inside of something, an operation, and then the feelings that come along with that when you're trying not to be obsessed with something, and all the other considerations he has. So yeah. No, I think it's a pretty good description.
Yeah.
I still like the description.
I'm notoriously bad at describing the movie. Anything that I'm notoriously best. So I lean on that a lot.
Well, I think what I found fascinating about it was, it's an inside look into, the music making process, but more so than that, because there's lots of films that do that. But I think in particular, something starting kind of from, the ground up, so to speak. Like, so this group, they've got something going, but I liked seeing it at that level. So much of, I think we see portrayed in entertainment about the music industry is like, things are great already. It's kind of like stardom's already been reached, and so that's kind of what I liked about it. It was like these group, even the arbitrator here, they're all kind of finding themselves and trying to get themselves launched and into that. I won't out myself too much about my age, but I thought it really captured that like 20 something of really like, you got things going, but like, what does it take to take it to the next step? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that was definitely a through line in the story about, I think that's why it feels like maybe a coming of age story in certain respects, because everybody's kind of on the journey. They're not necessarily there yet. Plus, it's not the sexy part of the journey necessarily. I think to your point, that's why people like to start on the other side of the story whenever they're telling these things. But this is much more about like, how do y'all get along with each other? How are you living? What does the process look like on a day to day? Than it is about somebody like making it in music or something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was there a personal experience or a reference point or like an idea that sparked this whole story?
Yeah, it's like, I think hopefully everything that like we endeavor on is going to reflect our lives in some capacity. And in this one, it's like, we were a young group also like endeavoring in like the arts, making music, making movies, had our own little collective, and nothing too like overly autobiographical about some of the minutia of the case. But I think it just speaks to more of like the idea of like, they always say don't mix family and business or family, friends and business. But we were like, okay, what if you do mix family and business? And then going a level beyond that, it's like, what if you mix family and business and have some kind of falling out, some kind of like a big like core issue? And then the final layer on top of that is like, what if you're mixing family and business, you're having internal issues, and you're not worth anything yet. There's not actually any value there. It's all potential energy that you guys have. So we just thought that would just create some interesting dynamics that like would just be fun to explore for some young up and comers.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I would say too, now in this today's world, I think there's more of a understanding, especially with like social media and other outlets that are out there, of the potential that you can get versus I think maybe like years ago, it was a little bit more like, oh, I'm just going to do this. But like, I think you have to be so aware of the direction that you're going.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. With this, obviously a huge part of this film is music, and I really appreciated it because I am not a musician at all, but I really do enjoy music. But what I think is always hard in films, especially when it's telling a fictional story, is and you know, you have this up and coming artist, and so the music has to reflect that like, you know, he's good because his music is good. And so I always feel like that's a challenge in films of like, because you're writing original music to these characters, not something that already exists. So what was the challenge of integrating original music to the story?
There was, the challenge is exactly what you just said, which is that there's an audience will accept something, but there's a difference between them accepting that, like, all right, in the universe, this person is doing well, or he has music that people like. There's a difference between that, them accepting that and like feeling it enough to be like, okay, I get why people like this person, or I get what his whole thing is, even if it's not my thing. So I think that was the hardest part. Just making it feel like appropriate for where he's at in his journey, and then also make you understand why people would like it, but still let it have like that kind of rough quality to it too. Which it doesn't feel like he's a fucking Beethoven. It just feels like he's like, oh, that's a dude with a lot of energy, and it seems like where he goes, the party goes too. So it's like that was a big part of the music thing. But a lot of that was written into the script too, like just references to like what the energy was like, what the songs needed to achieve, even certain lines. Like if we're just being super specific, there was like lines where he said like, sorry, can we swear? Is it cool to?
Oh yeah, it's totally fine.
yeah. Well, there was lines where it was like "fuck Rodney" and that kind of stuff that was already in the script. Like, so we knew that whatever the song was, at some point he was gonna have to say that.
Yeah.
And then there were other small things like that. But yeah, the process was super involved though, because it was myself, Barry, and then another artist named Manny, and a producer named Brandon Keebler, that like worked on those 3 songs that became the Noel songs. So it was literally like Barry would record verses for it, and then like Manny would too, and we'd work on the beat and that kind of stuff. So it was pretty much like it was very organic the way it got built too, and we tried not to overthink it too much, so that it still felt like something that, you know, that he would make and put out, not something that like it's like, is this hitting exactly the right way, you know, that exactly. Kind of vibe.
Yeah. I definitely, like, one of the things I loved about this movie was just the ensemble cast. Sometimes those are some of my favorite movies, is just when everybody stands out no matter their role. But right now in particular, talking about the music. So Laurent Marzette, is that how you say his last name, who plays Noel. And I think at the screening, you did say this, that he had never rapped before.
Not at all.
Yeah, I was just super impressed, because I think the big thing about, you know, an up and coming artist or just a popular artist is owning the room. And in particular, not just the scenes he was in, but in particular, the opening scene with the concert, but then also the home concert, which is, you know, not a built-in audience, I would say. And I loved how, I mean, how he just owned the room. I thought that was, like, how did you shape his musical identity there and that stage presence? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of that is like, well, one, I think Laurent, he came in, and it's like you're gifted whenever an actor comes in, is very it's like open with, you know, the process, especially when it's something that they're not comfortable with. And so he definitely, I don't think he would dispute. I don't think he was overly comfortable in the early parts, because we brought him out a couple days before we started shooting, and like he'd be recording, like we had reference tracks like made for him, and he'd be recording over, like he'd just be like re-recording the reference tracks that we had made. And he'd be just over in Sly's living room, like he'd just be recording the music there. And then we eventually took him to a studio, the same studio that we shot like a couple of the scenes in the movie, and to like re-record and like do them like proper or whatever. But LaRon, I think just how he is as an actor is he's very, like, you can tell that he cares very deeply about like the stuff that he's doing, and he really wants it to be like as fluid, as like lived in as possible. And so like that's why, again, like we mentioned on stage, no one told him go put on 20 pounds of muscle and all this stuff, and he did that. But like that all lent itself, because like in the script it says he wasn't going to be wearing a shirt on stage, and so he thought of that, and he's like, I can't be up there just looking just scrawny on stage. So he went and like added the bulk. So like that's just like part of his character, is that like, or not like not the character, but LaRon's character as a person, is that he really wants to dive in. So for the concert, we could tell like he'd already had stuff prepared on stage that he wanted to do, because we didn't have an extensive time to rehearse like any of the concert stuff. Really, it was just like in a couple hours before we actually shot on the day. But he'd show up and he had like his own little like routine things that he was doing, clearly to make himself comfortable on stage and to feel like more like lived in. And it was fantastic. And then the same thing happened like for the home concert. The lines that he was saying were like most of them were written into the script, but it's just an entirely different thing to like recite something and then actually make it feel like a person on stage doing it. So
especially because to that point, like that's not like, that's all in camera, you know, like it's like for the concert scenes, we had him perform his full set, like at the first big concert scene at the top of the movie. Like he performs all like 3 songs in a row with like a crowd full of people, and the speakers are actually playing the music that you're hearing in the thing. Like there's nothing like, that's the least film scene that we have in the movie, meaning that like there's functionally no difference between going up and doing a 15-minute set at some show and doing what he did, except that we're like, all right, chill out for 10 minutes while we move cameras around and then do it again. And like that was a vibe. Same thing with the home concert. To Barry's point about those are the lines, but then when you get into the room, you got to see what's going. He's trying to work the crowd. It's very clear, you know, when you watch the scene, you're like, oh, this is how it doesn't matter if there's a ton of people or no people. Like this is just how he holds court in a room or whatever.
I would say too, just to add on to that, just talking about LaRon's character as an actor, not like Noel, but like LaRon as an actor. You know, you talked earlier, like it's hard to, when you have a song that in universe is supposed to be good, and and your job is to get the audience to believe well enough. Yeah, okay, like this could be good. Yeah, and he had to do that. You know, he had to come in and record that and perform those songs. He also had to take that party, like that home concert, and start at an awkward place where he's like getting it set up, be like, oh shit, like how do I get this set up? And then take it, and I thought very naturally turned it into something where people were cheering. And I think, you know, I've always, you know, both times we watched it this weekend, there's a lot of levity from the audience when it stops being awkward and he just starts being charismatic. So for LaRon to do that on 2 separate occasions, to like, you know, make music feel good in the world and to take something to be awkward to not awkward in the world, it's a hard thing to do as an actor.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was impressive. And as I mentioned, I wish we had the time almost to talk about everybody, because I just thought the whole cast here just stood out in their own ways. You know, just no matter how much screen time or like it felt like the characters were fully lived in and developed and just identifiable. And so like what was the process like? Because you do have a lot of characters in this film.
Yeah. I mean, it was a blessing and a curse, like having that many characters in the film, like because it does a lot, like for the on-set dynamics, like having all these very cool, vibrant, young, swaggy, like people just like moving around your set. It does a lot for the energy there. And in the casting process specifically, it was a lot of like, we cast locally as much as we could. You know, we were definitely like doing our rounds on the local scene. And then we're hitting a couple people like outside of town, trying to bring some more talent, people with like a slightly higher, like I guess resume, you know, into our production. So that process was fairly natural. Like we had like a good casting director, and we talked to a lot of really cool people. Some of them weren't right for the stuff, and then thankfully the ones that we got, I think, were the perfect people for the job, including Clarissa Tebow. She was one of our out of towners. Hannah Abdo was another one. Even LaRon Marzette, he's a local, like he's from Oklahoma, but you know, he's also works out of Atlanta a lot. And then I'm the big one, Sean Gunn. Like we got Sean Gunn, who was far and away the most established like actor that we worked with. But the casting process, thankfully, all the cast really responded to the script. Like they all really responded to the script, and they could feel the energy once we had like our Zoom meetings with them. I think it became like you realize very quickly, you know what I'm saying? Like you think you could work with somebody, but you also realize a step beyond that. It's like, I think I would actually like working with this person. I think I would enjoy being in their presence and stuff. So it was following that feeling, and I think that achieved like the direct results of getting a really, really good on-set chemistry like between the actors. And like another one, Kadeem Latin, that's another actor. Like he's not an actor, but he played the role of Bully. This was his first ever role that he played. But he's an OU basketball legend. Like he's not even like we met him in college. But it was all about the energy because we understand the world very well. We understand the fabric of it, like the texture of it, and we know like how he's from our world. Like so it was like a very seamless transition to get him in there. And like I think that mix of actor and non-actors created like a cool ass dynamic on set that I hopefully think the rest of the actors and crew could attest to.
Yeah, and I think that just as far as the ensemble aspect of it, that like he said at near the top, like I think having them there to bounce off of each other gives them a lot to work with in terms of fleshing out their own characters and responses. It also gives us a lot to work with by way of having lots of colors and brush strokes. And then the difficulty is just making sure that you could tell a coherent story, or you might have difficulty later when you're cutting, like trying to, it's like, oh, well, if it wasn't 5 people in the background of this scene, maybe you could present it a little differently whenever you come up against something difficult. But yeah, so I think that was maybe the challenge and benefits of having it as well.
Yeah, a lot of characters, and also I would say a lot of different sets and scenes as well.
Lots of different sets, lots of
so many
different
menus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we shot a lot for this movie. First of all, it was in the script. Like from the script conception, it was a big story. Maybe we didn't realize how big it was in terms of translation. But we had another like blessing and a curse situation where we shot everything that we wanted to shoot. And then that was a blessing. And then the curse was being on the other side of it and coming out with a lot longer movie than we intended on our assembly cut. So after that, it was just a lot about trying to figure out how to get the leanest version of this possible and how to make sure that you weren't being like overwhelmed with information. So yeah, it was an embarrassment of riches. We had so much great shit that we had to cut. But I'm really happy with the stuff that's in right now and how it moves.
And even speaking to like the locations and things like that, obviously them too, they can speak to a lot of the stuff as well. But we have like 5, 6, 7 like main actors, in main characters in the story, and all of them have a number of like almost double-digit outfits like in the production. So like it was certainly a toil, you know what I'm saying, every day on set. But and the credit to our crew, like Shayla Holmes was our costume designer on this project. She's never worked on a movie before, like in any capacity, much less designing the costumes and then being one of like the main like executors like on set, like actually trying to like being responsible for all the costume changes, keeping up with all their different like accoutrements. She was getting them all these cool little like just like accessories too on top of the actual outfits. So it was, and then you're doing that for 8, 7 people, and you have 5 to 10 different outfit changes for a lot of these people. So it was a lot. It was a lot on the production side, and hopefully like that translates well onto the screen too, because the response we've gotten so far is that it does feel very fresh and lively and colorful, like especially in terms of like the textures and palette that's coming back your way.
What was it like shooting it like in Oklahoma and the different locations? And was it what time of year did you shoot?
It was like late spring or early summer.
It was in summer. It was the month of June.
It was full on summer.
I mean, pre-production development. It's still spring.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. It was a long pre-production during spring, and then we shot in June in the summer.
I think we shot on like the hottest day of that year. I think we shot on like the hottest day of that year too. It was like 110 degrees, 130 on the truck on one of our longest days.
Yeah.
It was hot, but I mean, like, as far as like how sourcing locations, things like that went, it ended up being a lot easier to get locations than I thought it would be. I mean, every production presents challenges in that regard, but very few and far between did I feel like we not have a good answer by the time we got out of pre-production and development. So, I don't know if there's something to be said about shooting in Oklahoma. It's that know how to talk to everybody.
I think everybody probably gonna have a perspective on that just because there was so many different aspects to it. One thing Barry brings up a lot is specifically the barriers to entry aspect, which is just that, since we're out here and we've been out here a long time, and Oklahoma doesn't historically have a film industry, it makes it a lot easier to maybe get certain things in shorter time frames or for lower price points than you normally would. And then Ben will probably be able to speak to like just like dealing with the film office and those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, people call Oklahoma City specifically like the biggest small town. Everyone has a loose connection to everyone, and that's something that it turns out makes filmmaking a lot easier. And so, working closely with Jill Simpson of the Oklahoma City Film Office, we were the second project to ever be approved for the Oklahoma City specific rebate right after Twisters. And so, working closely with her, and she opened some doors to locations and things like that. And so I think, it's just like, you can get things done quickly, like, and for cheaper here, just for the nuts and bolts of like, where are we going to shoot? Where are we going to park? Where are we getting catering? Stuff like that. And that was definitely a blessing. Just especially, just running as quickly as we did. I mean, you saw how many locations were there, Nathan. It's like our second day, we were shooting on the roof of the Museum of Art in a sequence that didn't make it into the movie, but might be the prettiest thing we've ever put on a camera. And then we had a process trailer, another scene that didn't make it in the movie, like a full rig process trailer around Midtown. And then we did the whole pool sequence after that. And so just like having to bounce between all these locations, single light on our feet, like in a city that might be larger and more cumbersome, like in New York or Los Angeles or something like that, like it definitely would not be possible for the resources we had. So,
Oklahoma has the friendliest people that are more willing than most, but I do think you have to maybe build in a little chat time with those people.
You're probably on Oklahoma time.
Social credit is a real thing.
That's a very real thing.
They'll deal with you though.
We touched on a little bit about the strong themes about, there's conflict, identity, self-discovery. But did you have to do you've been part of the music industry for sure, but especially the legal processes of these things, did you all have to do a lot of research into this story?
Yeah, I think the research was more for like just the kind of priming. I was mostly for me, like priming myself just in terms of like what is arbitration, what does it even look like and stuff. And that's the benefit of research, is like you can understand something and then you can learn very quickly, like maybe this isn't the most cinematic thing in the world, which is like an entire arbitration, like legal proceeding. So I mean, we definitely played it like a lot looser. I think the actual arbitration is it's a lot more structured. It's a lot more boring for sure. Like, so we were definitely trying to like take the elements that are interesting of it, which is like somebody being like an arbitrator being in charge of what happens to your company, especially when your company doesn't really involve money, but it involves your closest friends and family and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was what we were more interested in than the specific nuts and bolts. Maybe an actual arbitrator will watch this and be like, what the hell was that? Or maybe he'll be like, it's pretty much accurate. So like, that'll be.
I think that speaks to the script though, right? Where it's like, you should be feeling like Ari shouldn't be doing what he's doing the entire time.
Yes, exactly. And that's part of his arc, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like he's stepping beyond bounds. If he stayed within the room that they were in, maybe the whole story gets wrapped up in like 25 minutes, who knows? Like maybe it's a much quicker affair.
He takes his brother's advice and voids the contract.
Yeah, maybe it's just then just shake their hands and be done.
Oh God.
Yeah, I like how you in particular, it just made me laugh. Ari's hair like cracked me up, but I just even loved, it was very subtle, but even before he gets out of his car, how he adjusted and puts his sunglasses on. I don't know. I like that little touch there.
He looks super dressed down in some of those scenes for a professional doing professional doing his job, and the fact that he bothered to do his hair like that too.
It's surprising to us too.
It's pretty funny.
I know Grayson Dunn outside of this production. I've seen him adjust his hair in the review mirror walk in somewhere before.
That's one of Grayson's signature moves, and even the hair too was like, that was another one, because we've gotten a lot of people like tell us like, yeah, that guy looks like he's in movies and stuff, just like he's got, I guess, some kind of classical movie type face. And the hair was something that he thought of, like he told me about it very loosely, that he was gonna do that, like a specific hair. Like he said, I'm gonna get it done up a little bit for the movie. I was like, all right, cool. And then like 2 days before we start shooting, he comes back. I was like, oh, that's fucking cool, man. Like I was like, it's mad specific, and he had like his. I was like, that's awesome.
That's crazy. A little bit unmanageable, but like in a way, it's like, all right, well, clearly you know what it's supposed to look like. that kind of vibe or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, I thought this, whole crew has like a cool vibe to him, but Clarissa as well as Imogen, I thought she really stood out too. Like it just like I was like, oh yeah, you would radiate towards this person for sure.
100%.
Yeah, she's pure. Well, she's pure magnetism on as like as herself, but also as Imogen. Like you could tell when, because I think the real Clarissa is a little bit more fun. Like she jokes around and stuff like that, maybe easier than Imogen does. But once she snapped into that mode, it was like oh yeah, there's no bullshit. It was just she was locked in.
Yeah. What do you hope viewers walk away after seeing this movie?
That's a great question, man.
I think, I don't want to get waxed too poetic, but I just think maybe more than like a specific message or something, I've enjoyed most when people have walked out with certain ideas about what it might be about. Like we'll ask people, what did you think the movie was about, or what do you think it's meditating on? I think that I gravitate to whenever people bring back answers like it's about connection, or it's about family, or it's about falling out, or it's about like intensity, or like just a really strong moment. And I paint the field like that just to say, rather than like hoping that they think it's about one thing or another, I just like whenever people feel very strongly about whatever they think it is about. Because it always sounds good to me when they're like, oh, well, it's very obviously about this. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
No, definitely. It's like, I always get very tripped up when I try to figure out what these things like are about or what they like mean and stuff like that. I think in some ways, even though I wrote it and I'm like the least qualified person to like speak on it, but like for me, like it feels to me like it's a collection of moments, and I hope people have just that feeling of like just being somewhere specific in a point of time, and maybe less than a point of time, just like in an air, you know what I'm saying? Like in an atmosphere. Like I think that if people say it feels like summer, like when they say that, I always really love that. Yeah. When people like yourself even say it feels like just what it feels like to be 20 something, and just that general just phase of life where it's like nothing's permanent and everything's possible. And like you're meeting thousands of people, and then you're also not seeing the people you met the year before maybe. And so like, it's that kind of like atmosphere and vibe. That's the stuff that that's what I want people to take from it. It's like it's more of a feeling and a texture and a taste than like maybe something so like X's and O's,
Yeah. I don't want to give away too much, but the scenes between Russell and Ari, so Sean Gunn and Grayson's characters, I enjoy those talks there because I think there's something to mine from both of those, but also kind of like, I do agree. Sometimes we just maybe read into things a little too much, and so I like that aspect of like it's good to acknowledge where you are in life and where you want to go, but also let's not make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, and I think too, it's just like it is a movie that certainly invites opinions. It's a movie that invites you to grab onto an element or to like Sly said, it's like I love it when people are like, yeah, I thought it was about this. Like, I didn't really think it was about that, but like, that's just as valid as that I think it's, it's about. And I think it's about like having so much texture to grab onto something when everything you can latch onto, like you said, it almost makes it more universal, where it's like, maybe we are reading too much into it and just need to enjoy it for the sum of its parts rather than latching on specific elements.
Yeah. This is random. I just thought about, but the very beginning with the quick cuts and the montage, I love that aspect of it. I was like sucked in immediately. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. So I really like that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you appreciate that, boss. Yeah. That was late edition too. So.
Yeah, I remember the first cut that I saw that had that in it. I was like, oh my god, like wait, I'm so locked in. Like I've seen this movie a million times now.
Yeah,
it's good. So most importantly, how can people watch Close Enough to Burn? Where can people find find this movie? Like, are there any other upcoming screenings or appearances?
Yeah. So right now, I think it's so we just did the festival. At the time we're recording this, it literally just happened a couple of days ago. And then I think also at the time we're recording this, I think it's also available through deadCenter's virtual film festival for a couple more days, where you can go online and see it. I think it's $10 at checkout. All proceeds go to deadCenter, by the way. We're not taking your bread. And then aside from that, it'll be available to view in a couple months. We're definitely shooting for fourth quarter in terms of There's a couple more stops we want to make on the festival circuit. And then very, very soon after that, it'll be available for wide release. And as soon as we have the specific information, we'll share it with people, and we're excited for everyone to get a chance to look at it. But we also want to make sure we take our time to give it the proper presentation and setup.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course. Is there any easy way for somebody to follow you all and the work that you do?
Absolutely. So at Close Enough to Burn on Instagram is going to be the best way to get updates. Obviously, you can follow any of the us individually too. But at Close Enough to Burn is where we get updates. And yeah, we've been pretty transparent about that aspect of it so far. This is the first time we got to show the movie. It was fantastic getting to see people's reactions, experiencing it with the audience, and getting to hear back from people afterwards. We're excited to do that again. It's not going to be long. So catch it on virtual festival now, if it's still now for you when you're hearing this, for deadCenter. And then in a couple months, we'll be back. And as soon as we have the next stop for you, we'll let you know. And then after that, we'll get it up on streamers and out everywhere.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to put that handle in the notes so that people can easily find that account and follow what's going on. So, well, I appreciate it so much for your time. So this is a lot of fun for me to do, and I appreciate you taking the time out to do this.
Hey, no, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Nate.
It's always great fun to talk about the movie with other movie lovers, man. So yeah, we appreciate you.
And appreciate the good questions too.
Yeah,
and
great questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very engaging. Very fun.
I forgot to ask. So I love local craft beer, and I couldn't help but notice Stone Cloud Brewery had some.
How that happened? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you want a little bit of the backstory there, we knew that the film was going to have a lot of alcohol of different varieties in it. You know, so like your Hennessy cognac placeholder and a couple of other things. And so one of the big concerns is like, all right, how do we show drinking on screen without like handing them a seltzer or handing them like an actual beer, and we show you get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Stone Cloud Brewery and we just talked to them. It was the easiest thing I've ever done. I've ever gone to any distributor or supplier. Like I walked through the door, I was like, hey, yeah, I've got a film coming up. We want to use some beers. You guys have great designs. Do you mind if I just, is there someone I can talk to you about getting a couple of like fake cans? And they came out, the branch manager came out, and he and I talked for about 20 minutes. 3 days later, he handed me 4 pallets worth of those. We had leftovers. Yeah. And at some point it was like, no one would take them.
Yeah.
They're filled with water,
So
it's like
water had a bit of a just the canning process, a bit of a taste to it.
Yeah, it was like they filled it with water and they threw an Alka-Seltzer inside. But it was great because they would like foam on screen.
Yeah, exactly.
It was great as far as like prop drinks go. Shout out Stone Cloud.
Shout out Stone Cloud. And great beer. I love Stone Cloud beer.
Yeah, if you're in Oklahoma, stop by. That's an endorsement.
Well, thanks, guys. You made me thirsty now, so I have to go and partake.
All right. Yeah. Thanks so much, Nathan.
Appreciate you, Nathan.
Yeah, have a good one.
Appreciate
Yeah, thank you again.